Hi, and welcome to this video of Dynamics 365 Talk, where I'll be showing you how to create an approval process with various components using Power Automate. But before we get into it, let me introduce myself. My name is Dion Taylor. I am a Microsoft Business Applications MVP. Feel free to check out my blog at d365goddess.com. Follow me on Twitter at d365goddess, or connect with me on LinkedIn by scanning that QR code. Now, the first thing I wanted to do is kind of go over the requirements with you guys first. So there's going to be certain opportunities in Dynamics 365 sales that need to be submitted for approval. Now, the people who are qualified to do these approvals are members of an Office 365 group that is called Approval. Now, there's several people who are members of that approval group, but we only really need one of them to review the opportunity and then approve or deny the opportunity. Now, the sales reps and the managers who use Dynamics 365 for sales, they need to have access to certain approval data, such as the date and approval for an opportunity was sent, which Office 365 group it belonged to, it was sent to, and then obviously we also want to capture information once the approval is completed. For instance, like who was the person who approved or denied it, when was it approved or denied, and what actually was that outcome, right? Was it approved or was it denied? So what I want to do first is I kind of want to show you what it looks like after everything is configured. And I'm going to go ahead and run you guys through that process. So here's an opportunity I have in Dynamics 365. And the way I configured it is that when I actually set this approval required field to yes, that's going to kick off my flow. It's going to trigger my flow. And the first thing that it's going to do is it's actually going here to my approval history. And you can see here there's currently nothing in there. And it's going to create an approval history record. I actually created a new entity that is called WO approval that I'm going to use for this. So let's go ahead and see what that looks like. I'm going to go ahead and set this approval required field to yes. So let me just go ahead and do that. So again, the first thing it does now is it's creating that WO approval record and it's tying that to, let me just refresh it again, to that opportunity. So here we can see that we have the submission date here, we can see the status reason, and we can see that it was actually submitted to the approval team. But the other fields are still blank, so we know that this has not been completed yet. So I just heard that there's actually some emails that just came in. I have an email address, my own email address, and I also have Teresa Testing's email address, because if you actually take a look here, I'm just going to go ahead here into Exchange, and then I'm going to go to my groups that you see here on the recipients, and then I'm going to go ahead and open my approvals Office 365 group, and then my membership. So you can see here that these two folks, myself and Teresa, we are the members of this group. So I'm just going to go ahead and get out of here. And now let's take a look at those email addresses. I'm going to go ahead and click here on my own email address. And here we can see that my opportunity needs approval. It was sent to myself here. And let me also actually show you this next to Teresa's, who also, you can see here, this was sent to Teresa, and same thing, right? The same email has been sent to her, same time. You can see both of them are sent at 11:20 p.m. So now what I can do, it can either approve or reject whatever I want to do. Let's just say I want to approve this. I'm going to say, looking good. Please move forward. Actually, there we go. And then I can just go ahead and submit that. Now, if Teresa is also submitting something, maybe she's rejecting it, and I'm going to say no. Now I'm going to go ahead and try and submit that. And you can see here that it now tells her that there's already other people that have already submitted this request. So there's no need for her to do that. So now if I go back to Dynamics 365, I go back to my opportunity. And let me refresh this again. we can now see that the approval date's been populated, the person who approved it, right? And we have the notes in here as well. So that's kind of what we want to do with this Power Automate flow. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to go dive into Power Automate with you, and I'm going to show you exactly what I did to build out this particular flow. So I just typed in flow.microsoft.com, and that will take you into Power Automate. And then the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new solution, and let's just go ahead and make that the opportunity approval workflow. I can go ahead and put myself in here, and there's some additional options here as well if you wanted to fill that out, but I don't have to. And then I'm just going to go ahead and create my solution. And once that's done, you can just go ahead and drill into that. Now I'm going to go ahead and click here on new, and we are going to create a flow. So let's just go ahead and select flow in here. And then the first thing I'm going to do as soon as this loads is I'm going to search for a trigger. And this is when a record is created, updated. Let's see here. So we're looking for when a record is created, updated, or deleted, and that's that current environment connector. So I'm just going to go ahead and select that. The trigger condition is going to be update. And then we have the entity name, and that's obviously opportunities. And then the scope. And if you have worked with workflows in Dynamics 365 CE, then you've seen this before, right? What is our scope? Business unit, organization, parent, or user. I'm going to do organization, so it's going to run for, it doesn't matter where we are. And then we have some additional fields here as well. I'm actually want to put a filter expression in there, and what that means is, as you can see here, the trigger fires if the expression is actually true. So the field that you guys just saw me change is that new approval required field. That's actually what it's called. So I'm just going to go ahead and put that in here. That's that approval required field that I set to yes. And if I look at that value of that yes, then that numerical value associated with that is 1. So that's what I'm doing over here. So because if that approval required field equals no, then I don't need to run this flow. And then lastly, I want to run this as the process owner or the record owner or the triggering user. I'm going to run this as the process owner. Okay, so that's the first step. My trigger has been created. So then the first thing I want to do is I actually want to go ahead and create a new record because, and we want to make sure that we're actually again selecting that current environment, because we want to create a approval record and associate that with that opportunity in CE, right? In Dynamics 365 for sales. I created that new custom entity that I call WO approvals, and here it is. Oops. WO approvals. Here we go. And then we can click on show advanced options. Now, a couple of things that we can do here. First of all, I want to tie it to that opportunity that kicked off this flow. So I need to first put in the entity name, the system name, which is opportunities. And then in parentheses, I can go ahead and put in that dynamic value. And I'm looking for that unique identifier, right? So I'm going to click on that. That puts it directly within here. And I want to close my parentheses on here. Then the other thing I want to do is I want to put in the time that this got submitted. So I'm going to just go ahead and click on that expression and then say now. Right? And then click on OK. That's the current date and time. And that's really all that I want to put in here right now, right? Because we don't have any other information like who actually was the person that approved it. Oh, actually, we do have where it was submitted to. So I'm just going to go ahead and put that in there because that is submitted to that approval team or Office 365 group, right? So I'm going to hard code that in here. And that's all that I have to put in here for now. Now, the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm actually going to list group members because I want to pull out the group members of that Office 365 group, right? So I'm just going to click here on list group members, and then I need to go ahead and pick that group. And I have access to that Office 365 group. That's why I'm seeing it here. So I'm going to click approvals. And that's really all that I need to do here, right? You have here some advanced options as well. You can see here number of group members. The default is 100. So if you have more than 100 group members in this particular Office 365 group, then you can change that over here. I only have 2, so I don't need that many. Now, the next thing what we need to do is we actually need to pull out those email addresses, right, from those folks. So I'm going to go ahead and say select, and this is going to be a data operation. So I want to basically from those list group members, what I want to do is I want to pull out the value, and then you're going to say, okay, what value are we bringing out? Well, we're going to map that to, and what I need to do here is I actually need to change this, switch it to a text mode. And then I can go ahead and now, as you can see, I can bring over dynamic content from that Office 365 group member record, right? Records, I should say. So I'm looking for mail. You can see here, this is the user's email address. So that's what I want to pull out, right? So currently in this select step, I am now pulling out that email address of those group members. Now, the other thing that I didn't realize is this is actually just giving me those email addresses and pushed together. There's nothing separating them. But if I'm sending an email or an approval, what I need to do is I actually need to have a semicolon in between them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look for another data operation, which is called a join. Right over here. So I want to put whatever the output was in this step. You can see that here, right? It's called select, the output of select. And I want to join those values with that semicolon. So this is all that I have to do in order to put those semicolons between those email addresses. Right. And now what I can do is now I can start with my approval. So I want to start and wait for an approval. And here we go. Start and wait for an approval. And it's going to ask me what type of approval do I want to use. And I only care, right? We said that earlier. I only need one response. I don't care who it is, but so we're just going to do whoever responds first. That's what we want. And then now it's just going to be simple, right? So I can say, okay, opportunity with ID. Let's just take a look, and again, not create a new record. We want to go right back to that opportunity. So I'm going to say opportunity ID, because I actually have a custom field that's called opportunity ID. So opportunity with ID, and then I'm getting the ID space needs to be approved. And then who are we assigning it to? Well, whatever comes out of that join, right? So again, we're going to click on dynamic content. And again, we got to make sure that we're actually selecting the output that comes out of that join, because otherwise we don't have that semicolon. And we can put some additional details in here. So for example, if you wanted to go ahead and I'm actually going to hide these advanced options because I don't need them. If you want to have an item link in here, I couldn't really find a way to do that. So basically what I ended up doing is I opened my opportunity, and then I basically copied the whole thing except for, I kind of stopped at something that says equals opportunity end ID equals, and that's where I stopped. So I'm going to show you that. So I'm going to go here in the item link. I'm going to paste that in there. So it looks something like this, right? This is going to be whatever your org name is. .crm.dynamics.com, main, app ID, blah, blah, blah. So if you have an opportunity open, you can just copy and paste this URL, but up until here, only this piece. Because the last piece of that is actually, excuse me, the opportunity unique ID, that GUID. So I'm gonna, again, opportunity, and make sure, right, not when you're creating a new record, you actually want that first trigger, right? That's the opportunity that we're looking for. So now you can just go ahead and say, hey, I want the unique identifier at the end of that. And that will give you the link to that opportunity. Then, of course, here you can say link to opportunity or whatever you want to put in there. And that's all you have to do in this start and wait for an approval. Now, then we need to have some conditions, right? What do you want to do when something is approved? And what do you want to do when it's denied? So I'm just going to go ahead and click a new step. And I'm going to have a condition here. Let me just condition, search for that. And here it is. I'm going to put a condition in. And again, we're going to have that value, but as you can see here, now we are at we're pulling from that start and wait for an approval. So I'm looking for, oh, here it is, the outcome of that approval. So I'm going to say if that outcome equals approve, right? Then if that is correct, I'm going to go this path. And if that is not correct, oops, I'm going to go this path. Now we're going to do another action because we want to update that approval record that we created in that first step. So we're going to say update a record, common data service, current environment, and WO approval. There we go. And then we need to get that item ID. Which ID? Which one are we going to update? Well, guess what? We created it right over here. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to look for WO approval because, again, that's the unique identifier. And I'm going to put that in here. So we're updating that record that we created in that first step. Then I'm going to expand that, and then we're going to put some additional information in here. We want to put in the actual date of the approval, then it was done. And that is actually the completion date. So I'm going to put that in there, and you can see here this is again coming from that approval. Then we want to put the approver notes in here, and that's actually the response comments. So let me see, comments, responses, comments, here we go. Oops. And you can see here now that it doesn't apply to each, which is fine. You can just let it do that. And who was the approver of that opportunity? So now we're just going to go ahead and approver. Let me just see here. We want the approver name. Here it is, responses approver name. And then lastly, we obviously want to set, right, the status reason. Was this approved? Was this denied? So this was actually, as you can see here, the outcome equals approved. So I can just go ahead and set this to approved. So that's really all that I have to do here. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm actually going to copy this. I'm going to click on this. And I'm going to say copy to my clipboard. And I'm going to do add an action. And you can see here, this is my clipboard. And I'm going to go ahead and copy that in here. So let's again take a look at that, apply to each. I do want to make a couple of changes here, not a lot, probably only one actually. I just want to not make this approved. Because again, what we're saying is if the outcome equals approve, if that is a no, that means that That's not approved. That's actually denied. And that is it, boys and girls. That's how you create your flow. And again, let's kind of walk through that again. So when a record is created, updated, or deleted, in this particular case, it's updated, right? And then we said that approval required field that equals yes, then create that approval record in CE or in Dynamics 365 for sales, tie that to the opportunity and set that submission date, then query my group members, and then basically give me their email address, then join all of those with that semicolon, and then start my approval, and then have my outcome be yes, do this. If it's no, or I should say, if it is denied, if it's not approved, then follow this path right over here. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please hit that like button. Be sure to check back again next week for another video. And in the meantime, stay safe and don't forget to wash your hands, everybody. Have a great day.